Everyone talks about grand romantic gestures, expensive gifts, perfect dates, the right words. But what if the moments that truly capture a man's heart are the ones most people never notice? What if attraction isn't built in dramatic moments, but in quiet, authentic gestures that communicate respect, warmth, and genuine connection? Today, we're exploring 7 powerful womanly gestures that can create deeper emotional bonds. They're simple, timeless, and often overlooked. And by the end, you may realize that the smallest actions can have the biggest impact. Think about the people you feel closest to in your life. Chances are, it isn't because they always had the perfect advice or knew exactly what to say. It isn't because they bought the most expensive gifts or planned the most unforgettable moments. More often than not, it's because when you were with them, you felt like you mattered. You felt heard. You felt understood. You felt that, for a little while, the rest of the world disappeared because they chose to be fully present with you. That is something increasingly rare today. We live in a world where attention has become one of the most valuable resources. Conversations compete with buzzing phones. Meals compete with notifications. Even moments that are supposed to bring us closer together are interrupted by endless distractions. Everyone wants to be noticed, but very few people know how to truly notice someone else. Presence is different from simply being physically there. You can sit across from someone for hours and never really meet them. Your eyes might be on them, but your mind is somewhere else. You're thinking about tomorrow's problems, yesterday's disappointments, or the next message waiting on your phone. Genuine presence is the decision to make another person feel like, for this moment, they are the most important thing in your world. That simple decision has incredible power. When someone feels genuinely seen, something changes inside them. They stop trying to prove themselves. They stop wondering whether they're interesting enough, successful enough, or good enough. They begin to relax because they sense they are accepted rather than evaluated. And that feeling creates trust. Trust isn't built through impressive speeches. It isn't created by trying to appear perfect. Trust grows quietly, one meaningful interaction at a time. It grows every time you remember something important someone shared with you. It grows when you ask thoughtful questions instead of rushing to give advice. It grows when you listen to understand instead of listening for your turn to speak. Many people believe the strongest relationships are built by finding the perfect words, but often the most meaningful moments happen in silence. Sometimes a person doesn't need a solution. They simply need someone willing to stay, listen, and remind them through their attention that they don't have to carry life's burdens alone. Think about the moments that leave the deepest impressions. They are rarely dramatic. They're the conversations that lasted longer than expected because neither person was watching the clock. They're the quiet walks where words weren't necessary because understanding was already present. They're the evenings when someone asked, "How are you really doing?" and genuinely waited for the answer. These moments may seem ordinary, but they create extraordinary connections. Real presence also requires curiosity. Instead of assuming you already know someone, continue discovering them. People evolve. Their dreams change. Their fears change. Their perspectives grow with every experience they have. When you stay curious, you communicate something powerful. I care about who you are becoming, not just who you were when I first met you. That kind of curiosity keeps relationships alive. It's easy to pay attention during exciting moments. The real challenge is showing the same level of attention during ordinary days. Anyone can celebrate success, but can you remain present during disappointment? Can you stay patient when conversations become uncomfortable? Can you listen without immediately trying to fix every problem? Those are the moments that define the strength of a relationship. Presence also means putting aside the need to be right. Too many conversations become competitions instead of opportunities for understanding. We prepare our responses while the other person is still speaking. We defend our opinions before we've fully understood theirs. But genuine connection begins when the goal shifts from winning an argument to understanding another human being. People rarely remember every word you say. They remember how they felt while they were with you. They remember whether they felt judged or accepted, ignored or appreciated, rushed or valued. Those emotional memories stay with us far longer than facts or advice. Every interaction is an opportunity to leave someone feeling stronger than they did before they met you. Not because you solved all their problems, but because you reminded them that they matter. That reminder is more valuable than we often realize. In the end, Lasting relationships aren't built on constant excitement or perfect circumstances. They are built on thousands of small moments where one person chooses to give another the greatest gift they have, their undivided attention. In a world where everyone is fighting to be noticed, the person who truly knows how to notice others will always leave the deepest impact. That is where genuine connection begins, and that is where trust, respect, and meaningful relationships continue to grow. We often grow up believing that people will love us more if we become more impressive. We try to say the perfect thing, wear the perfect clothes, avoid every mistake, and create an image that looks flawless from the outside. Somewhere along the way, we begin to believe that perfection is the destination. But if you look closely at the strongest relationships in the world, you'll notice something surprising. They aren't built on perfection. They're built on respect. Respect is one of the deepest emotional needs every human being has. Before someone can fully trust you, before they can feel emotionally safe around you, they need to know that they are valued as a person. They need to believe that your appreciation isn't based solely on what they achieve, how they look, or how well they meet your expectations. It comes from recognizing their dignity, their character, and their humanity. Think about the people who have had the greatest influence on your life. Chances are they weren't perfect. They had flaws. They made mistakes. They had difficult days just like everyone else. Yet you continued to admire them because they treated people with kindness, integrity, and consistency. Respect leaves a deeper impression than perfection ever could. In relationships, respect reveals itself in countless small moments. It's found in the way you speak during disagreements. It's found in your willingness to listen without interrupting. It's found in choosing words that build rather than words that tear down. Anyone can be kind when everything is going well. Real respect is demonstrated when emotions are high, opinions are different, and patience is being tested. Many people confuse respect with agreement. They think respecting someone means accepting everything they say or never challenging their policies. But that's not true. Respect means acknowledging another person's value even when you see the world differently. It means recognizing that disagreement doesn't have to become disrespect. Healthy relationships aren't free from conflict. In fact, conflict is inevitable whenever two unique individuals share their lives. What determines the strength of the relationship isn't whether conflict exists. It's how each person chooses to handle it. When respect remains present, conversations become opportunities for understanding, instead of battles to determine a winner. There is something incredibly attractive about someone who makes others feel important, without making anyone else feel small. That requires emotional maturity. It requires confidence that doesn't depend on comparison. Truly confident people don't need to diminish someone else's worth to feel valuable themselves. They celebrate the strengths of others because they understand that another person's success doesn't reduce their own. Respect also means accepting imperfections instead of constantly trying to change someone into an ideal version that exists only in your imagination. Every person brings unique experiences, habits, strengths, and weaknesses into a relationship. If your focus is always on what someone lacks, you will overlook everything they already bring into your life. Appreciation has incredible power. When you acknowledge someone's effort, their kindness, their resilience, or their character, you're reinforcing the qualities that matter most. People naturally move toward environments where they feel appreciated rather than constantly criticized. That doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing encouragement more often than judgment. Words have tremendous influence. A single sentence spoken with kindness can stay in someone's heart for years. The same is true for careless criticism. We often underestimate how deeply our words affect the people closest to us. Respect asks us to pause before speaking and consider whether our words will strengthen the relationship or weaken it. Another important part of respect is honoring boundaries. Every healthy relationship depends on recognizing that both people have their own thoughts, dreams, friendships, and personal space. Love should never erase individuality. In fact, the healthiest partnerships are those where each person encourages the other to continue growing into the best version of themselves. Respect creates emotional safety. It allows people to be honest about their fears without worrying they'll be mocked. It gives them the confidence to admit mistakes without fearing humiliation. It creates an environment where vulnerability becomes possible because acceptance is stronger than judgment. Perhaps the greatest expression of respect is consistency. It's easy to show admiration during exciting moments or special occasions. The true test comes in ordinary life. It's shown by keeping promises, arriving when you said you would, speaking truthfully even when it's uncomfortable, and treating someone with the same kindness in private that you show in public. These consistent actions quietly communicate, "You matter to me, and I will honor that through my behavior." At the end of the day, people don't expect perfection because perfection doesn't exist. What they long for is something far more meaningful. They want to know that they are valued, heard, appreciated, and treated with dignity even on difficult days. Respect is the foundation that allows trust to grow, communication to deepen, and love to endure. When respect becomes a daily habit instead of an occasional gesture, relationships become stronger, more resilient, and far more fulfilling than perfection could ever make them. There is a common belief that extraordinary relationships are built through extraordinary tenets. We imagine grand surprises, expensive vacations, dramatic declarations of love, or unforgettable celebrations. Those moments are beautiful, and they certainly have their place. But if you ask people to reflect on the memories they treasure most, they often don't talk about the biggest events. They talk about the smallest ones. They remember the unexpected phone call on a difficult day. They remember someone noticing they were unusually quiet and asking if everything was okay. They remember a handwritten note tucked into a bag, a warm smile after a long day, or a simple message that said, "I was thinking about you." Why do these little moments stay with us? Because they communicate something far more valuable than money ever could. They say, "You matter. I notice you. I care enough to pay attention." Thoughtfulness isn't measured by the size of the gesture. It's measured by the intention behind it. A thoughtful action tells someone they occupy a place in your mind, even when they aren't standing in front of you. It proves that your connection isn't based on convenience. It's based on genuine care. In today's world, people are busy. Schedules are full. Everyone is rushing from one responsibility to another. Yet even in the busiest lives, we always make time for what truly matters. That's why a small act of kindness often carries so much emotional weight. It tells someone that despite all the demands on your attention, you chose to think about them. The beauty of thoughtfulness is that it doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness means noticing the little things others overlook. It means remembering someone's favorite coffee order without being reminded. It means recalling an important meeting they were nervous about and asking later how it went. It means recognizing when they're smiling on the outside, but carrying something heavy on the inside. These moments may seem insignificant, but together they build a powerful message. I see you. People long to feel seen, not for the image they present to the world, but for who they truly are. Thoughtfulness creates that feeling because it pays attention to details that reveal genuine interest rather than surface-level attention. Consider how different it feels when someone remembers something you mentioned weeks ago. Perhaps you casually shared a dream you've always wanted to pursue, a book you hope to read, or a challenge you've been facing. Then, days later, they ask about it. Suddenly, you realize they weren't simply hearing your words. They were listening, and listening is one of the greatest forms of respect. Thoughtfulness also shows itself during difficult seasons. Anyone can celebrate birthdays or achievements, but what about the ordinary Tuesday when someone feels overwhelmed? What about the season of disappointment that no one else notices? Sometimes the greatest gift isn't solving someone's problem. It's reminding them they don't have to face it alone. A kind message, a sincere compliment, a patient conversation. These actions may take only a few minutes, but their impact can last for years. There is another reason. Small gestures matter so much. They create consistency. Grand romantic moments happen occasionally. Daily acts of consideration happen repeatedly. And relationships are strengthened not by isolated events, but by repeated experiences that reinforce trust and appreciation. Think of relationships as a house. Grand gestures are like beautiful decorations. They make the house look impressive. But the small, thoughtful actions are the foundation beneath it. Without a strong foundation, even the most beautiful house eventually begins to crack. Many people wait for the perfect opportunity to express appreciation. They think they'll say something meaningful on a birthday, an anniversary, or another special occasion. But life isn't transformed only during milestones. It's transformed in ordinary moments. Often, the words someone needs most arrive on a completely ordinary day. Thoughtfulness is also contagious. When one person consistently demonstrates kindness, it often inspires the other person to respond in the same way. Before long, the relationship develops a culture of appreciation instead of expectation. Both people begin looking for opportunities to encourage rather than criticize, to notice rather than ignore, and to give rather than simply receive. Perhaps the greatest mistake people make is assuming that love automatically communicates itself. They think, if they know I care, I don't have to show it. But appreciation left unspoken is often appreciation left unfelt. The people we care about cannot read our minds. They experience our love through our actions, our words, and our consistency. At the heart of every meaningful relationship is a series of choices. The choice to pay attention, the choice to remember, the choice to encourage, the choice to show kindness when no one is keeping score. These choices rarely make headlines. They rarely receive applause. Yet they shape the emotional atmosphere of a relationship more than any dramatic moment ever could. Years from now, people may not remember every conversation you had or every gift you gave, but they will remember how you made them feel in the ordinary moments of life. They will remember that you noticed what others overlooked, that you cared without being asked, and that your kindness appeared not only when it was convenient, but when it was needed most. In the end, those small acts of thoughtfulness become the quiet threads that weave together trust, affection, and lasting connection, proving that the simplest gestures often leave the deepest impressions. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people think confidence means being the loudest person in the room, always having the perfect answer, or never showing weakness. They believe confidence is about proving yourself, impressing others, or making sure everyone notices your presence. But real confidence is much quieter than that. It doesn't demand attention. It earns respect. And when confidence is balanced with kindness, it creates something incredibly rare. A presence that makes people feel inspired rather than intimidated. Have you ever met someone who walked into a room without trying to dominate it, yet everyone naturally gravitated toward them? It wasn't because they were seeking approval. It wasn't because they were trying to be the center of attention. It was because they carried themselves with calm assurance. They were comfortable with who they were, and that comfort allowed everyone around them to relax as well. There is a powerful difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance says, look at me. Confidence says, I'm comfortable being myself. Arrogance constantly seeks validation from the outside because it is built on comparison. Confidence doesn't need to compete because it comes from within. One pushes people away, the other quietly invites people closer. The irony is that the more someone tries to prove their worth, the less secure they often feel inside. When every conversation becomes an opportunity to impress, relationships become performances instead of genuine connections. People begin wearing masks instead of revealing who they truly are. They become exhausted trying to maintain an image that was never authentic in the first place. Authenticity is one of the strongest signs of real confidence. It means you no longer feel the need to pretend to be someone else just to gain acceptance. You recognize your strengths without exaggerating them, and you acknowledge your weaknesses without allowing them to define you. That kind of honesty creates trust because people know they are interacting with the real person, not a carefully constructed image. But confidence alone is not enough. Without kindness, confidence can easily become intimidating. A person may appear successful, intelligent, or capable, yet still leave others feeling unimportant. True strength is measured not by how powerful you appear, but by how safe people feel in your presence. Kindness transforms confidence into something that builds relationships instead of creating distance. Kindness isn't weakness. In fact, it often requires more courage than pride. It takes strength to remain patient when someone misunderstands you. It takes maturity to celebrate another person's success without feeling threatened. It takes wisdom to listen more than you speak and to encourage others instead of constantly seeking recognition for yourself. One of the greatest signs of emotional confidence is the ability to make others feel valued without expecting anything in return. You don't compliment someone because you want praise back. You don't offer help because you're keeping score. You do it because your sense of worth isn't dependent on what you receive. You're free to give because you no longer live in fear of losing your value. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel accepted. Think about your own experiences. The individuals you enjoy spending time with are probably not the ones who constantly remind you of how impressive they are. They're the ones who listen with genuine interest, laugh without pretending, admit when they're wrong, and make you feel comfortable enough to be yourself. Confidence also means remaining steady during uncertainty. Life has a way of testing every person. Plans fail, expectations change, disappointments arrive without warning. During those moments, confidence is not pretending everything is fine. It's believing that even if today is difficult, you have the ability to keep moving forward. It's trusting your character more than your circumstances. This kind of confidence becomes contagious. When people see someone facing challenges with humility, grace, and determination, they begin believing they can do the same. That's why truly confident individuals often become natural leaders. They don't inspire through fear, they inspire through example. There is another quality that makes confidence magnetic: humility. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less often. It means recognizing that every person has something valuable to teach you. No matter how much knowledge you gain or how much success you achieve, there is always room to grow. Humility keeps confidence grounded. It prevents success from becoming arrogance and achievement from becoming pride. Kindness strengthens that humility even further. It reminds us that every person we meet is carrying struggles we cannot see. The confident person doesn't assume superiority. Instead, they choose compassion. They understand that everyone wants to feel respected, appreciated, and understood. That awareness changes the way they speak, the way they listen, and the way they treat others. Perhaps the most attractive quality of all is emotional consistency. Real confidence doesn't disappear after criticism, and kindness doesn't vanish during conflict. Together, they create stability. People know they can trust someone whose character remains steady regardless of success or failure. That reliability builds deeper relationships than charm ever could. At the end of the day, people are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to authenticity. They are drawn to those who know who they are without needing to prove it, who speak with confidence without arrogance, and who combine strength with compassion. When confidence is rooted in self-respect and expressed through kindness, it creates an atmosphere where others feel encouraged to become the best version of themselves. That is the kind of presence that leaves a lasting impression, not because it demands attention, but because it quietly earns trust, admiration, and genuine connection. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you cannot fully see. Some are carrying dreams they are afraid to speak out loud because they fear being laughed at. Others are struggling with disappointments they hide behind a smile. Some are questioning whether they are capable enough, strong enough, or worthy enough to keep moving forward. In moments like these, the people who make the greatest difference are rarely the ones with all the answers. They are the ones who choose to encourage instead of criticize. Encouragement is one of the most powerful gifts anyone can give because it has the ability to change the way a person sees themselves. Words can become mirrors. If someone constantly hears that they are not good enough, eventually they begin to believe it. But when someone consistently reminds them of their strengths, their potential, and their ability to overcome challenges, something remarkable begins to happen. They start believing it too. Many people underestimate the influence they have on the lives of those around them. They think encouragement requires a grand speech or a life-changing piece of advice. In reality, encouragement often begins with something much simpler. It begins by noticing effort instead of only celebrating results. It begins by recognizing progress instead of demanding perfection. Think about how often people are criticized. At work, they are evaluated. At school, they are graded. On social media, they are compared. Everywhere they turn, someone is measuring whether they are successful enough, attractive enough, talented enough, or productive enough. Very few environments consistently remind people of their value beyond their achievements. That is why genuine encouragement stands out. When you become someone who sees potential, where others only see flaws, you create an atmosphere where growth becomes possible. People are far more likely to improve when they feel supported than when they feel constantly judged. Fear may produce temporary obedience, but encouragement creates lasting confidence. This does not mean pretending that mistakes don't matter. Every person makes mistakes, and every relationship requires honesty. But there is a difference between correcting someone and condemning them. One focuses on helping them become better. The other attacks their sense of worth. Wise people understand that behavior can be corrected without destroying a person's dignity. Imagine a gardener planting a seed. They don't stand over the soil every day shouting at it for not becoming a tree overnight. They understand that growth takes time. They provide water, sunlight, patience, and care because they know that development cannot be forced. Human beings are remarkably similar. We grow best in environments where patience is stronger than pressure. Encouragement also means believing in someone during the moments they struggle to believe in themselves. Every successful person has experienced seasons of doubt. There are moments when failure feels permanent and dreams seem impossible. During those seasons, one encouraging voice can become the reason someone refuses to give up. History is filled with examples of people who changed the world because someone believed in Macht before they believed in themselves. Sometimes all it takes is one person saying, "I know this is difficult, but I believe you can do it." Those words may seem small, but they can become the turning point that changes the direction of an entire life. Relationships thrive when both people become each other's greatest supporters instead of harshest critics. Imagine what happens when two individuals celebrate each other's victories instead of competing with them. Imagine the strength of a relationship where success is shared, failures are faced together, and dreams are encouraged rather than dismissed. That kind of partnership creates emotional safety, and emotional safety allows people to become the best version of themselves. Another powerful form of encouragement is simply being present during difficult moments. You don't always need perfect advice. Sometimes people don't need solutions. They need reassurance that they are not facing life's challenges alone. Sitting beside someone, listening without judgment, and reminding them that tomorrow still holds possibility can be more meaningful than any carefully prepared speech. Encouragement is also contagious. When someone experiences genuine support, they often begin offering that same support to others. One encouraging conversation creates another. One act of kindness inspires another. Before long, a culture of hope begins replacing a culture of criticism. Entire families, friendships, and communities can be transformed because one person decided to become a source of encouragement instead of negativity. It is important to remember that encouragement must be sincere. Empty compliments quickly lose their value. Real encouragement is specific. It notices character, persistence, courage, kindness, resilience, honesty, and effort. Instead of offering praise just to make someone feel good, it reflects back the qualities they genuinely possess, helping them recognize strengths they may have overlooked in themselves. The greatest leaders understand this principle. They don't simply point out what is wrong. They help people see what is possible. They recognize that every individual has untapped potential waiting for someone to believe and tune it. Rather than controlling others through fear, they inspire them through confidence and trust. At the end of the day, every person longs to know that someone believes in them. We all face moments when the road ahead seems uncertain and our confidence begins to fade. During those moments, encouragement becomes more than kind words. It becomes fuel for perseverance. It becomes a reminder that failure is not the end, that growth is still possible, and that our greatest potential often appears only after our greatest challenges. When you choose to encourage rather than criticize, you do more than brighten someone's day. You help strengthen their spirit, restore their confidence, and remind them that they are capable of achieving far more than they ever imagined. We live in a world that celebrates extraordinary moments. Social media is filled with engagement announcements, luxury vacations, anniversary surprises, and carefully captured highlights that make relationships appear effortless and exciting. It is easy to believe that lasting love is created through unforgettable experiences. But when you speak with couples who have remained deeply connected through the years, they often reveal a different truth. Their relationships were not built by a handful of spectacular moments. They were built by thousands of ordinary ones. The strength of any relationship is determined far less by what happens occasionally than by what happens consistently. Anyone can be thoughtful on a birthday. Anyone can be romantic on an anniversary. Anyone can say beautiful words when emotions are high. The real question is this: who are you on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon? How do you treat the people you care about when there is nothing special on the calendar? Character is revealed in consistency. Trust does not appear overnight. It grows quietly, almost invisibly, through repeated experiences. Every promise you keep becomes another brick in the foundation. Every time your actions match your words, confidence grows a little stronger. Every moment you show up when you said you would. Every conversation where you choose honesty instead of convenience. Every act of kindness that asks for nothing in return adds another layer of security to the relationship. Many people spend too much energy trying to create memorable moments while neglecting the daily habits that actually sustain love. They believe one grand gesture can compensate for weeks of emotional distance. But relationships don't thrive on occasional intensity. They thrive on dependable care. Imagine planting a tree. You don't pour hundreds of gallons of water on it once a year and expect it to flourish. You water it regularly. You care for it consistently. Growth happens because of repeated attention, not isolated effort. Human relationships follow the same principle. Small acts performed consistently are far more powerful than dramatic acts performed occasionally. Consistency also creates emotional safety. When someone knows they can depend on you, uncertainty begins to disappear. They no longer have to wonder which version of you they will meet today. They don't have to guess whether your kindness depends on your mood or whether your support disappears when life becomes difficult. Reliability allows people to relax because they know your values remain steady even when circumstances change. One of the greatest expressions of love is simply showing up. Showing up during celebrations is easy. Showing up during disappointment is far more meaningful. Being present when someone is sick, exhausted, discouraged, or overwhelmed communicates something words alone never can. It says, "I'm not here only for the good days. I'm here for all of them." Life has a way of testing every relationship. There will be seasons of stress, financial pressure, misunderstandings, personal struggles, and unexpected setbacks. Those challenges don't necessarily destroy relationships. More often, they reveal the habits that already exist beneath the surface. If patience has been practiced consistently, it becomes easier to remain calm. If honesty has become a habit, difficult conversations become less threatening. If forgiveness has been exercised repeatedly, conflicts become opportunities for growth, rather than reasons to walk away. Consistency also applies to appreciation. Too often, people stop expressing gratitude once a relationship becomes familiar. They assume the other person already knows how much they are valued. But appreciation loses its power when it remains unspoken. A sincere thank you, a genuine compliment, or acknowledging someone's daily efforts should never become rare simply because time has passed. Familiarity should increase gratitude, not reduce it. Another important habit is choosing kindness even when emotions are running high. It is easy to be gentle when everything is going well. The true measure of character appears when frustration enters the conversation. Do your words continue to build, or do they begin to tear down? Do you seek understanding, or do you seek victory? Consistency means allowing your principles, not your emotions, to guide your behavior. It is also important to remember that no relationship remains exciting every single day. There are ordinary routines, quiet evenings, repetitive responsibilities, and seasons where life feels predictable. Some people mistake the absence of constant excitement for the absence of love. But mature relationships understand that peace is not boredom. Stability is not weakness. In fact, one of the greatest gifts two people can offer each other is the comfort of knowing they can simply be themselves without needing to create endless excitement. The strongest bonds are formed when ordinary moments become meaningful because of the people sharing them. Cooking dinner together, taking an evening walk, laughing over small mistakes, supporting each other through everyday responsibilities. These simple experiences become the memories that define a lifetime. Years later, people often remember the feeling of being consistently loved far more than they remember any single extravagant event. Consistency requires intention. It is a daily decision to act with integrity, to communicate honestly, to forgive quickly, to encourage often, and to remain faithful to the commitments you have made. These choices may seem small in isolation, but over time they shape the entire direction of a relationship. Just as small cracks can eventually weaken a foundation, small acts of love repeated day after day can create extraordinary strength. In the end, lasting relationships are not sustained by perfect moments. They are sustained by faithful habits. They grow through trust earned one day at a time, kindness offered without keeping score, patience shown when it is most difficult, and love expressed through consistent actions rather than occasional promises. While the world often celebrates dramatic romance, the deepest connections are built quietly, in the ordinary moments that rarely receive applause. Those everyday choices become the true legacy of a meaningful relationship, proving that love is not defined by what happens once in a while, but by what we choose to do every single day.